Hello friends, Iceberg from Dylan Brothers Harley Davidson, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to take you for a ride on my 2004 Dyna and talk about the greatest upgrade I have ever done to any of my motorcycles, which is the Legend suspension. I went ahead and got the Revo on here. It is absolutely incredible. As I said, hands down the best upgrade I have ever done to my motorcycle. So we are going to go take a short journey while I talk about the difference, how comfortable it is, how I feel, going through corners, all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be some big elaborate ride. It's going to be an in-town rip because I only have a little bit of time. But this was a video I very much wanted to do because I am a true believer that pretty much the best upgrade you can do to your motorcycle is getting a proper suspension on it. And these Legends are no joke. So let's go ahead and hit the road. All right. So, as I said, the best upgrade I have ever done to my motorcycle, hands down, was getting this Legend suspension on here. I did do just the Revo. There's basically two that you can get. You can either get the Revo or the Revo A. I felt for the fact that I'm more often just a solo rider. My wife really doesn't ride with me anymore. So it's pretty much just always my weight on the motorcycle, so I didn't feel that I necessarily needed that quick access adjustability that the Revo A offers. It's an amazing upgrade for certain, and I definitely feel that if you own like a touring motorcycle and or you are constantly changing the weight of your riding situation on your bike, if you are going to have a passenger a lot, the A is definitely a way to go and something to look at because of that quick adjustability on it. As I said, for me, just the standard Revo was good enough. And when I say good enough, I mean absolutely amazing upgrade on this motorcycle. I came off of riding a 2018 Softail Lowrider for almost the past 4 years. We took this 04 Dyna in trade, and I absolutely fell in love with it and had to have it. Just something about that old school flavor and the ability to customize these older Dynas, if you will, as opposed to some of the newer Softails where you're not necessarily limited, but the kind of upgrades and options that maybe I wanted to do definitely suit more to the older model Dynas. I absolutely love this 88 twin cam, just a beast of an engine. Love the feeling of it, the response on it. But that's not why you're here. You're here to hear about the upgrade on the Legend suspension. But anyways, my point of coming off of an 18 Softail Lowrider, that thing rode incredible. It handled amazing, had the single monoshock preload on there. It really was a very nice riding motorcycle. And when you go off of something that smooth and you hop onto an 04 Dyna with stock suspension, you definitely know you're on an 04 Dyna with stock suspension. So I rode this thing for about 3 weeks. Loved it, got the things done that I wanted to it as far as, some comfort stuff, like the new Lapera seat. I put a different set of bars on it, did those modifications to it that everyone looks at. I mean, of course, if you just bought a Harley, what's one of the first things you do? If it doesn't have loud exhaust, you put loud exhaust on it. If it doesn't have an upgraded intake, you put an intake on it. If it doesn't have cool bars, you put cool bars on it. Like, those are all the standard first and foremost things that you do to a Harley, and I myself am guilty as charged as well. But I have to say, if I could go back and do it again with all of my motorcycles, I think the first and foremost thing that I would upgrade and change on my bike would be the suspension. And hands down, it would be the Legend suspension. These Revo, night and day difference, my friends. This thing handles now as good and rides as smooth as any modern day bike I have been on, and it is an '04 Dyna. So, you know, the funny thing about it is now, once you upgrade the rear, you realize how how lackluster your front suspension is too. So that's my next move, is to get the fronts done on it as well. But you know, for me especially on this Dyna, you know, it's not the biggest bike, and I am, let's see, how did they phrase that in the 70s when I was a kid and had to go to like J.C. Penney's with my mom to go shopping? It was the husky section, if you will. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am what you call a husky build. I may be a little scarred by that, my friends. But anyways, so, you know, riding on that stock 11-inch suspension that comes on the '04 Dyna, I felt absolutely every single inch of the road. I might as well have been on a hardtail. Well, that might be stretching the bounds of reality a little bit, but let's just say it was not the most pleasant of rides for sure. All right, as I was saying, just the difference in comfort level, especially for someone my size, switching over to these Revos, just absolutely amazing. Just a beautiful, very nice, smooth ride. I'm sure, and look, let's face it, we may have some of the highest road taxes in this country in our fabulous city of Omaha and state of Nebraska, but we also have some of the crappiest roads you can possibly ride on in this fabulous city and state. So don't let the vibrations of my voice fool you that this isn't a smooth ride, because it is. And if I would have done this kind of video vlog while riding on the 11-inch standards, you wouldn't even be able to understand me. It would be like I was talking through a kazoo. So, you know, for me, one of the first things I noticed, it was great experience for me, because I was able to, the day that I got my suspension on, obviously I rode to work, handed it over to one of my techs, and then, so I rode in on the standard suspension and then rode home on the new Legend suspension. And I have to tell you, that was one of the most satisfying rides I have ever had on any of my motorcycles ever. Could not believe the difference in how the motorcycle handled and reacted to the road. Not just on the straightaways and on the bumpy roads, but even in the corners and stuff. Everything just had an entire different handling to it. You know, and I'm a big supporter and voice of, no matter whether you think you're a weekend warrior mechanic and how many YouTube videos you can watch about how to put things on your motorcycles, sure, there's a few things you can do that, you know, aren't a great degree of difficulty. And suspension is one of them, but I'm a huge believer and firm supporter of always have a professional wrench on your motorcycles. Whether you think you know it all or not, there is something to be said about having it done right the first time. You know, with the suspension, it's very important that one of the first things you do, they have to get it on there, and then they bring you in to sit on it so they can adjust that preload exactly to your weight and have the suspension rebound exactly the way it needs to for your riding. If you just slap suspension on and don't deal with the preload and get that thing set and adjusted correctly, then you're not enjoying what you paid for. And let's be honest, suspension isn't cheap. You want to enjoy what you pay for. So just a little PSA, if you will, my friends, that always have professionals wrench on your motorcycles. Even if you think you can just do it yourself with ease, I highly recommend having someone professional put stuff on for you. So, but anyways, as I said, riding home from work on this Legend suspension, I didn't want to get off my motorcycle. Not that I ever really do, but really it changed everything. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so you know, a good hour ride on my bike sometimes can beat you up a little bit, especially lower back. You know, I push motorcycles all day and take photos. I'm constantly pushing heavy bikes, leaning over, bending over, all that stuff. So a good hour or so on my bike sometimes can really light me up. The suspension on this completely has changed that to where I can go now much longer on my motorcycle without feeling that back fatigue, because the suspension's doing what it's supposed to. It's absorbing all of the lovely roads that we have here in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm not sure if you could see this, but looking out in front of me, it's just hole after hole, patch after patch, hole after hole, bump after bump. It's like there just isn't a smooth piece of asphalt or concrete in this entire city. And I don't know about you, but my main thing on my motorcycle, unfortunately, is commuting. I mean, it's, you know, I ride it to work more than I ride it for pleasure. So, and that's kind of why I'm taking you on this less than luster ride today, because I want you to experience just the normal, everyday, I'm ripping to work on my motorcycle, and what the suspension does for that on these just atrocious roads we have to travel on every day. Back to the Legend suspension. As I said, I did the Revos. They are the 13-inch. I went from an 11-inch standard to a 13-inch suspension on here, and it, you know, obviously the 2-inch lift was nice for me anyways. I'm taller and my bike sat very, very low, so that 2-inch lift was very nice. And then being set to my weight, which we already discussed, it's just, I cannot say enough about the Legend suspension and how they feel on this bike. And this is an older bike, my friends. This is not modern day technology. I mean, granted, it's not like it's 1969 shovelhead, even though I wish that you were. But, you know, so look, it's one of those things. I know this video is kind of short and sweet, and I'm not doing like a bunch of specs and all that stuff. I really just wanted to impress upon you that, as I said earlier, you have the go-tos that are always, you know, the first things everyone does to their bike: exhaust, bars, you know, all that. But I think truly one of the first and best upgrades you can do to your motorcycle, hands down, is the suspension. And, you know, coming from someone who has now done it and has never done it to a motorcycle, and this was the first time doing it, and going with the Legend, just absolutely no regrets. They are worth every penny you pay for these. You know, they come through Drag Specialties, obviously. You can stop out at Dillon Brothers, talk to any of our parts guys, you know, whether it's Joe, Jason, Eric, Dan. All those guys can, you know, really help you get the proper setup for your bike. You know, talk about how you ride, where you ride, those kind of things, and talk about, you know, weight setup and such, and they'll be able to really steer you in the right way of whether, just like the Revo for me was the perfect way to go, or if that you want to do even the more advanced, upgraded Revo A for those touring motorcycles and for changing the weight constantly. But yeah, look them up online, check them out, come out and talk to any one of our parts guys. I'm telling you, my friends, it is hands down the best upgrade I have ever done to any motorcycle I have ever owned. So, as always, thank you so very much for checking out our videos. And always remember, my friends, gear up, ride safe. Thanks a lot.